Is there a movie that you hate, but that you have still seen more than 67 times? I know that every single parent watching this is going to say, well, yeah, of course. I didn't even hate Frozen the first 13 times I saw it, but my kid watched it every single day for 2 straight years. Or there's some direct-to-streaming Minions movie that they can recite from memory. But if we exclude movies that your toddler forced you to watch every single day, is there some film that you have seen all of or parts of just dozens of times? Because I feel like this is something that is unique to my generation. Because we were the last ones to spend our childhood without the ability to watch things on demand. Obviously back then there was no streaming, but I also grew up in an era before DVDs and even VHS tapes. So that meant you watched whatever happened to be on. And I remember as a kid when we finally got HBO, a 24-hour movie channel. And remember thinking as a little kid, wow, I'm going to be able to watch Star Wars or Indiana Jones anytime. And that was not the case. Instead, what you found out was that due to however HBO did their licensing deals back then, they mostly filled their schedule with movies that had been box office bombs. So as a little kid, there were these movies that I swear to God would play every 48 hours on HBO. Like there was this movie from 1984 called Cloak and Dagger where Dabney Coleman plays like the imaginary spy friend of a kid. And because this was on constantly, I thought this was like a monster hit. And I think there's a whole generation of kids who grew up with the same skewed idea of the media landscape. Like there's a Tom Hanks movie called The Man with One Red Shoe that some of you think I am making up because you have never heard of it. But there was a point in my childhood where I could perform this movie word for word. There's a stretch of several months where every time I turned on the TV, a movie called Turk 182 was on. I have seen this or parts of it at least 100 times. A movie that bombed at the box office is totally forgotten, but as a kid, I thought, oh, everybody's probably dressing up as this for Halloween. There was another box office bomb called Hamburger the Motion Picture. A film so obscure that it's totally out of print. You can't watch it in any format. But I could sit down right now, almost 40 years later, and write out every single scene that occurs in this movie. And I think this is fascinating because it is completely the opposite of the current media landscape, where now they can perfectly customize a feed of exactly what you want and only what you want. Where back then they were like, no, you will take what we give you. And because this is what you were getting, you kind of convinced yourself it was good. And then years later, you would grow up and go back and revisit those movies from your childhood and say, I should have spent that time learning a hobby.